But I know sometimes it's a hostile work environment. I mean, hostile out there. You're not trying to say what agency that you work for. So it's all good. It's all good. Welcome, welcome everybody as they're coming in. Glad you all are here to join us. Mr. Kenton Pope, thank you for inviting. Yes, your sister. We like family affairs. What are your backgrounds and how'd y'all hear about us?
Actually, I think I met you a while ago at New Birth. I've seen you at the Atlanta Black Chamber as well. So I started following you on LinkedIn. So I saw your information on LinkedIn, actually. We're in the real estate space, particularly facilities management. And I'll never forget what you told me. You said you are a consultant. You kept saying that. And I was like, I work in real estate. No, you're a consultant. I was like, okay, got it.
Remove that title. We
Yep.
all tied to these titles, and managing a business and winning government contracts has nothing to do with your skill set. Amen. We learning this. We learning this. All right. I got Miss Tibbs. Y'all let me see some faces on a Friday. Hey, Robert. Robert, the only one. Let me see who's in the house. I
This
like
time.
can't connect. Y'all don't know if I have $100 million contract waiting on y'all. But I'm not gonna give you 100 million if I'm just looking at a blank screen. See, I don't know who I know, right? uh, somebody is she eating out loud, so she gonna join on shortly. But welcome, welcome everyone. It is 12:02. I'm going to go ahead and do some housekeeping before we start. And I'm also going, let me start streaming this before I do that. Anybody have any good news, any, as they say in the church, praise report that y'all want to share? Something good that happened this week in your business? Huh? Ghost? What's up, everybody? Hmm? All right. Nobody's trying to send me any love today,
Well,
JoAnn.
not in the business, but I guess with the federal government I work for, my manager just assigned me to do Microsoft Power Platform support for our organization. So that just gives me a few more tools for me to understand as begin to step away.
Okay. So you ready to provide start the process?
I am. Hey,
All right.
I'm picking this school tool set up. So
Okay. All right. That's good news. Any more praise reports? All right, y'all. I'm trying to talk my way through as I um trying to do a Facebook Live.
Well,
So
before
give me a moment. Yes.
I was gonna say I completed, successfully completed 18 weeks with you on last evening. An amazing time and looking forward to getting out there. That was
Con-
great.
Congratulations. Yes, we did. You all did the work. Very, very proud of y'all. Very proud of y'all. Look, I don't know which site I'm on right now. I'm just talking my way through, but we're gonna work it out. I'm not sure if I'm live or not, but we're gonna see. Hold on, y'all. Congratulations. So we ready to start competing on contracts?
We getting there with
What
your help.
what getting there?
Fixing a couple of things based on your recommendations on my capability statement and but I'm starting with looking at source of salt. So I've been every morning going to look for some stuff.
And
And
have you found any?
the couple that I found have been the RFIs, and they want quite a bit of information,
And
but I haven't found any solid sources salt or other ones. So
look, I'm just gonna skip this daggone Facebook and live because I am being challenged today with passwords and all of that. Just But again, welcome, welcome everyone. Let me try one more time. I don't
This
like,
this lady right here.
huh?
Shit.
Somebody cussing? Good morning. Happy Friday. Happy
Some
Friday. It's not letting me in. Um, anyway, let me do some quick housekeeping. This is being recorded. Welcome, welcome, family, as always. I am multitasking. Tomorrow, I am offering or having the information session. So, trying to kick off another cohort starting on Monday. So, if you know anybody that can benefit from what you all learn, since we have alumni here, please share the information and invite them to the session. And that's the bigger we are, the better we are together. I've also included in the chat a link to our school.com community. That's where a lot of our alumni are coming in afterwards and connecting and trying to compete and team with each other. And that's where I'm passing a lot of information. In there, I had also included a link for comment. Hopefully by now, how many by a show of hands, because I'm going to harass everyone, have made their comments at the SBA's website? Anybody? Let me go back to it. That link is in the school.com community. Please, it's imperative that we make our comments because that's the only way that we're going to have our voice heard. And right now, as of today, it is only 43 comments. Unacceptable. We've got to have our voice heard. And I asked Jackie Robinson Burnett, why did they try to shut it off on the main page? And she said the reason they're doing that is because after they leave in 2 years, that they know that industry has commented and don't want this rule to occur. So that's why it's important that you comment. And I put a template in the chat as well as why it's important. This has to be done by July 13th. So it's not only affecting businesses, but individuals. So pass it to your community, individuals as well, because we hire each other. So this rule is not only going to affect our community, it's going to affect job power, local jobs, the whole impact. So it's key and critical that we have our voice heard. But today, I'm excited. I'm excited to have my former colleague, Miss JoAnn Braxton. Y'all give her some love and let her know she's welcome. I get some love over here. She's given us our time to educate us and help us understand how to navigate the waters that we're currently in, and specifically leveraging this SBA Mentor Protege program. So we're going to first start out with, just the first interview, who she is, and then she's going to share with us on why this is probably the best avenue for us to try to venture right now based on where we are and what's going on with the current administration. So welcome, JoAnn. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello there, everyone. Thank you, Paula. Good afternoon. Yes, so delighted to be here, and we definitely share a passion for this space. So, just to give a brief background of my experience in the federal space. So I retired with 37 years of federal service. I started out at DoD, DLA, Defense Logistic Agency, but most of my service with SBA has been with SBA in the government contracting and business development space. So I managed hundreds of 8A firms and other small businesses nationwide while serving in the roles of a BOS in both Virginia and Georgia. In Washington headquarter office, I served in the senior program management role, managing an Ascent online platform. I'm not sure most people have heard of Ascent, but that was a federal initiative. They changed with administrations. And so where I was the co-curator for the federal contracting module. And so I was the program manager for emerging leaders. And that has kind of sunset, I guess. I call it 2.0, which is now, or was the last known as Thrive, Emerging Leaders Reimagined, and a few other national initiatives as well. I served as a core, managing multi-million dollar contracts, and served as a team member that established the All Small Mentor Protege program. So throughout my career, I've worked with hundreds of small business to help them navigate this space, certifications, mentor protege arrangements, joint ventures, federal contracting, and strategic growth.
So
So
you've been around the whole scale of
37 years, Paula, that's a long time.
and we're grateful for those 37 years of knowledge and things that is not written and nothing um, that has really been taught. So when I look even at the numbers of businesses since the Mentor Protege program was created, and even now, it's still to me relatively a low number. Um, can you give a little background on exactly how the Mentor Protege program has evolved from once when it started with the 8A program and really it is a good tool and why it was implemented? Because I think I was still in business when it was actually implemented in the 8A program. I think it was implemented in 1999 or 2000. Um,
Yeah, and so it is, and it's a sanctioned, it's a sanctioned SBA program, primarily focused on strategic partnerships that help small businesses, accelerate their growth by leveraging the mentor and their experience, their resources, their capabilities, etc. And so it was established and for a long period of time available only to 8A firms. And so that was a benefit, and it still is a benefit to small businesses, but it was a benefit that was only available to those that participated in the 8A program. And so Congress mandated the SBA to establish the similar or same program and offer it to other small businesses. And so in 2016, the All Small Mentor Protege program was formed. And, a history fact is actually Jackie Burnett Robinson was the associate administrator of the office of GCBD in 16 so we came in under her leadership.
what's the acronyms? What's GBCBD?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. It's the Office of Government Contracting and Business Development. And so she was the associate administrator for that office, where all of government contracting and BD comes under that office in the headquarters. And so, um,
so can you
um,
back up a little bit because I
yes.
think that office is really a kept secret. People don't really even understand the structure of SBA and how it's
Hmm.
functioned.
Hmm.
They everybody knows about lending, but they don't
Mhm.
necessarily know about the different components
Mhm.
of SBA as it specifically relates to contracting.
Mhm.
So it is siloed. And I don't know if it's still siloed. I think she came in and tried to centralize at least the application process
Yep. Mhm.
with all of the programs. But for the most part, 8A worked with 8A, women worked with women, HubZone worked with
Mhm.
HubZone.
Mhm.
Nobody talked to each other.
Right.
And then you have the office that you just discussed, the Office
Mhm.
of Government Contracts, which
Mhm.
house did they house the 8A program under that office, or is that separate? What was housed in the Office of Government?
Yeah, it was the Office of Government Contract and Business Development. And so government contract, business development was the 8A piece because that came from the Small Business Act, and the other programs were considered contracting vehicles. So they fell under GC part of the office,
Hmm.
right? So you had GCBD, the Office of Government Contracting and Business Development. So they were all housed in the same office that Jackie Burnett Robinson was the associate administrator for. And so then All Small came into that, which would be a separate space because it did not exist. And it was a vehicle for contracting. Um, and so prior to I think the second term of Jackie was it was kind of siloed, and then as you mentioned, she brought in centralizing the applications in one place where you didn't have to enter duplicate kind of information, and so that was one of the accomplishments of I think her second term.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And
but
so even from the Office of Government Contracts, because I want you all to be clear and understand that function in that office and that role they play, because me being on the other side and then coming into SBA and started, okay, this is what you all do over here. Y'all hold a lot of power, but nobody knows their role and why that office even existed. And what's the
mhm, mhm.
functionality? Why would I even know to come to you?
And so the structure of the agency, they deliver, it was a policy, it was primarily policy driven. So the headquartered office would execute, implement, revise policy. The district office would carry out the actual implementation of the programs. And so anytime that the programs were altered or small businesses in nationwide had issues with the particular program that they were uh, certified under or that they were interested in, then they could come to the Office of GCBD for policy guidance and rules on what the regulation says as it relates to that particular inquiry or protest or whatever it is. So it wasn't an office that was open to the public
Mm,
per se, like the district's offices are, because the district offices implement the programs on the ground nationwide. The headquarter office was more centered on supporting the policies and the regulations surrounding the programs.
okay, interesting. No, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
So, mm. So it's not it's rare that that office interact with the small business. It's just on an as needed basis. And do people uh well, that's where the PCRs and the CMRs are there. I guess that's what I'm trying to. So you got all this stuff under that office that the average small business don't know is a resource for them.
Yeah, and so, and the PCRs and the CRCMRs, were primarily assigned to the district offices. And so, but the headquarter office was we did interact with the public when they wanted to connect with the senior executives of the programs because um, it wasn't closed to the public. It just was a policy generating office and not didn't serve the same function as the district office. But if you as a business wanted to meet with the associate administrator of the Hub Zone program, you certainly could make an appointment to come in and meet with the administrator of the Hub Zone program and express whatever concerns or share whatever information you wanted to discuss. And so they were available, but it just had a different kind of um, um,
Yeah.
impact than the district office. But
Mhm.
we did meet with, especially when the All Small Mentor Protege program was established. I mentioned that, the SBA uh, was to review all of the other federal agencies' mentor protege programs, and they had, let's say, a year to respond to SBA as it relates to whether they were going to continue their MPP or not. And so, in that process, we had councils that met with small businesses. We met with agencies around how to move forward with, I wouldn't say eliminating, just um, uh, bringing down their mentor protege program. I mean, they either decided to continue it or to decline on continuing to support and promote their individuals' MPP program. So
Okay.
we did meet with the public at some time.
Okay, we're gonna back up to that. I had two other things that just came to mind. Um, so that comment that I'm trying to get people to complete, would that been something that would have potentially come out of your office? That Will your office be the office that would evaluate the comments?
Yes, yes,
And what happens
yes.
after the comments are evaluated? Because again, I think nobody even knows how that process really looks and what's the end goal.
Yeah, and another few offices, I don't remember the name of it, but they had the scorecard office under GCBD. They had the office actually where Sam Lee came from um, that um, evaluated scoring and um, would be the point of contact for things that come out of this. I can't even think of the word I'm trying to say. What is this? This proposed rule. And so once the rule closes, then Office of Government Counsel probably will review that in concurrence with the OG, the Office of Government Contracting Business Development, in assessing and evaluating the comments that come from the public as a result of a proposed rule.
Okay. Because again, this is foreign. We don't know anything about that process. And so it goes through the process. We make our comments. You all evaluate it. And then once it's evaluated, does it go to Congress? Does the proposed rule eventually turn into a law? Or
Yeah, it eventually turns into a law, just like the rule that's being challenged with this new proposed rule where they are um, proposing to eliminate the presumptive groups, that resulted out of a proposed rule that became law. So yes, once they finish the evaluation period, um, they probably go back out to the public before a final decision is made. And once it's final, then it's codified into law and it becomes you know, the
Wow.
requirement.
Wow. So I hope you all are hearing why it's so important to have these comments. Is there a certain number of comments that people tend to, is it thousands that make a difference? I mean,
You know, yeah, I don't know that to be the case. I was reading on that the other evening, and it stated that it's not in the quantity, it's kind of in the proposed solutions to the proposed rules. So I don't know that, but I would think that 1,000 comments might weigh differently than 50 comments. But of course, it doesn't state that.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, we need to, we need our voices heard and letting them
But
know.
that's important, Paula. That is important to respond to the proposed rules for
Mhm,
sure.
mhm. And pass it on. It's just not for
Yes.
small business owners. It's for anybody. Send it to grandma, send it to the aunts, the nephews. Everybody need to get engaged and go through this process to at least give them ammunition. They got to
Mhm.
have some type of ammunition. If we don't have any ammunition, then we're not, our voice isn't being heard. So thank you for that process. Because
But let me just say one more thing about that. And one thing that I also discovered that law came into being because systemic, proven government economic um, um, lack of
disparity,
effort. I mean,
disparity,
what'd you say?
disparity.
Yes, yes, that was proven. It was systemic, and it was a government inflicted result,
Hmm.
that caused the law to be.
Hmm.
And as you know, unfortunately, that hasn't changed much, so the reality for the need for that to continue or to still exist, in my opinion, is still applicable today as it was when it was established.
Which I believe I read was established, the 8-day program really was established in 1978.
Hmm.
Um, and so again, I got in the 8-day game in the early stages in the 84. So I was also able to watch it evolve to where it is today.
Hmm.
And I know in the early 80s and the early 90s, they were really, because you all had more control. I think it shifted with the Clinton administration when they started outsourcing the lending. They
Hmm.
started outsourcing you all's roles in signing off on contracts. I just remember
Hmm.
businesses being lined up all around 14th Street trying to get contracts signed. And so it
Hmm.
was the bottleneck from the
Hmm.
government, the contractor side.
Hmm.
So they gave all their power to the agencies, which eliminated you guys
Hmm.
control over who's really getting what. So you really didn't have the oversight that you had previously. And
Hmm.
then it never made sense to me if you have a program, same thing as the women's program, the economically disadvantaged. These are still core groups that have not been able to get into the game. If it's based on those components, as I used to say, you have to be poor to get in there, but they don't want to give you access to capital. So when they took the access to capital out of SBA's direct lending and went to the banks, we're back to playing the same game. because they're still the ones that are making the decisions on who they can fund. So it doesn't make sense to me if you have a business development program if you're not giving them the finance for the 9 years to be able to grow that business. So
Sure.
hence where the mentor protege program came in. So I was studying that program as well. That's another pathway to alleviate some of the obstacles of any small businesses trying to get access to capital, correct?
For sure, for sure. And you can leverage that relationship of the mentor. And that's, that's the fundamental intent and design is to be able to partner with and leverage the experience, the resources, the capabilities, that the mentor brings to the table. And, if the mentor protege program is for mentors that are other than small. And so when you factor in that the mentor is other than small, maybe they're medium sized, maybe they're large or whatever, then their access to capital, their resources stretch much wider. And that's the design, is to be able to tap into that so that the small business can begin to grow and scale and get opportunity.
And I get the number one question. Uh, how do I find a mentor? Is SBA going to find you a mentor? No, SBA is not going to find you a mentor. And my approach, and again, your approach could be completely different. But the way I'm training through our program is first them to understand what their needs are going to be.
Hmm.
Don't just go out there and jump into this relationship and you don't know
Hmm.
what you're trying to get out of it.
For
And
sure.
for me, I think the sweet spot would be those middle, I call them the middle children. And that middle
Hmm.
children are those who have generated revenues anywhere between 250 and $500 million because they're
Hmm.
too big to compete with the smaller business, but too small to compete with the larger business. Do you
Hmm.
have any opinion on potential strategies and how do you go about identifying and dating? Don't just jump into these relationships.
Yeah, I agree that that approach is wise. You definitely want to um, self-assess your business. Find out what your gaps are, what the needs are, and understand what you need before you go looking for a solution or something to assist you with that. And so, I do think that that would be the first, the very first thing to do. And yeah, so was the question, how would you
How do you go
approach
about,
your mentor?
yeah, how do you go about finding those potential, how do I go about dating and finding them? That potential mentor? Is there a formula or you just have to put yourself out there? Do I use this databases? Do I meet them at the industry days? How do I position myself to begin my dating process?
Yeah, so I think one can start with their existing network. Who do you currently um, interact with in terms of if you're subbing, if you have access to other companies that you align with in some way, assess look at your network and see first who you have within your network that can potentially serve as a mentor in some capacity. Um, Matchmaking session, yes, I think they add value. I think that I'm looking at my slide here, but I think that using data to identify potential mentors can be a valuable add as well. And so I'm big on data in this space, in this GovCon space. You certainly can. You have tools that you can extract data from in terms of who's doing what in the space. SAM Data Bank, USA Spending, even the small business search are tools that you can try to identify who you think that can complement the gaps that you've identified within your business, and begin to explore who they are. Do your due diligence in learning who they are before connecting and or making an ask.
Do they have to be a federal contractor? Could they be someone that don't have government experience?
Yes, they can be. There's no rule that say they can't be. So that means yes, they can be. But I would kind of think to what are the goals of the arrangement. And so is if the goal of the arrangement is to and the goal can be varied. It could be business development in certain areas of interest. It could be business development in the federal contracting space or the government space. It could be business development, corporate space, whatever the goal is, align with the mentor that can help fill those gaps and meet those goals. And so but if your goal is in the government contracting space, then it would position you better to be with a mentor that is familiar with that industry.
Um, I I had a client in my portfolio that I helped get approved into the mental protege program, and he got it in that he was approved with someone that had government contracting space, and then he
Hmm.
came back and he said, "Can I get another mentor because I need a mentor to just do the financing?" And I went to again attorneys and it was like, yeah, you can. So, but I think you have to be very strategic because you
Hmm.
only have two chances to have participate in that program.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, Interesting. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
so
And
you
so,
let's go back. You actually wrote. Let's start there, and I'll get you into your if you're ready with your presentation. But you actually was part of the implementation and execution of the program when it was approved into law. So you were on the ground and watching it, as you just said earlier, meeting with other mentors and I mean other agencies and getting their input and the
mhm.
evaluation once they're in it and then after. Is there you want to get in your presentation or you want to continue the dialogue? That's on you.
Let's continue the dialogue.
Okay. So do you do what are the challenges on two sides, the post, the pre and the post, that you find with small businesses once they get in, or even the application? What would deny a application into the mentor protege program?
Um, I think what would why would the MPA not be approved? Of course, primarily is adherence to what the guidelines say. And so you have to define your objectives and your goals. You have to uh, it should align with your business plan in terms of the direction in which you are going with this, particularly for those in the 8A program, in terms of where the agency will look to the business plan and the mentor protege agreement to see that they align. That doesn't exist for the other small business categories, but and so. Um, I think as long as you're specific, define the objectives, uh, clearly, that you said wouldn't get approved, but I think, that that's a kind of a recipe for approval is to ensure that your objectives are outlined and defined in detail as to, the intent of the arrangement and that it aligns with, your business plan.
And I think a lot of where I think I've seen things denied, even with joint venture arrangements and those types of things,
Hmm.
especially with the mentor protege. If you're coming in, because when I look at the mentor protege program and 8A program, it is for business development. So
Hmm.
if you're coming in and saying, we're coming in together because we want this contract,
Hmm.
that doesn't work. Right?
Right. It's not contract driven. As you say, it is business development. And the whole idea of the mentor protege program is to ensure that the protege gets some value out of the relationship, that the mentor is not controlling the arrangement, and that the protege is engaged, uh, performing in the work that the arrangement pursues, and gets value from the agreement. And so, you mentioned when, the all small program was there, when there is a reporting period, it's an annual report requirement. And so then that's where the agency will assess, the value that comes out of that relationship based on what the protege presents. And so there have to excuse me, there have to be um, the report has to reflect some alignment with what the objectives are in determining whether or not, the arrangement is working and meeting the objectives of the relationship.
Can you provide um, some layman's language of value, what or objective? What would be an objective, an example of an objective that a small business, because what I found is most small businesses coming into this space don't know what they don't know. So what could be a potential objective of a small business entering, whether it's the 8A program or the mentor protege program?
Mhm. They could have uh, a need for, let's say they have a need for back office structure or an infrastructure to the business to put together an accounting system or to put together um, ways in which it could be in terms of growing in the federal space. How do we identify these contracts? Some mentors can assist with that, although, the protege needs to not come to the relationship offering something, right? So it would be better if the protege is at least mature enough to be able to articulate its value and what it brings to the relationship. But you could get, it could be resources or um, access to, um, what was I thinking?
Financing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, financing for sure. I had a thought in mind, but yes, it could be access to financing, even um, security clearances, certain certifications or designations that I mentioned the CMM, which is a pretty relevant one in today's climate.
That's the
Uh,
acronym. Can you break down what
yeah,
CM
yeah, yeah.
and
That's
what
an
it?
IT related. which I don't know what CMM stands for, honestly, but it's a certification that DoD is requiring for all DoD contractors. But, DoD may not be your target agency. And so, it kind of aligns with what the goals and objectives are for the small businesses. And if DoD is an agency that um, is you're targeting, then of course, having a mentor that has a top security clearance or has that designation could be one of the benefits or an objective to ensure you include an outline in your agreement.
Uh, and why I will continually say, and that's why I'm pushing people to this program. I've
Mhm.
seen the benefits firsthand of my small business. And I've
Mhm.
seen the role that SBA has in supporting that small business. As an
Mhm.
example, I helped the small business get into the program. They immediately created a joint venture that was based on a contract that the mentor had.
Mhm.
The mentor poured all their resources into that protege, brought them up, they merged together. But when the contract was won, they tried to do a switcheroo in the labor categories. And so the person that was the protege asked me to look at what the mentor was presenting now that the contract was being signed. And the mentor was pretty much trying to give him all of the low end labor. And I was like, nope, you can't, you can't do that.
Mhm.
Leverage SBA and said, based on what SBA has approved in this joint venture, I have to have this percentage of the labor because that's the whole purpose of this relationship. It's for me to get the training that I need to be able to manage a $100 million
Yes,
contract.
that business development assistance. Yes, 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 yes. And
Mhm.
so, I reached out to one of my graduated 8A firms that I managed and that did really well and had a mentor. And so I wanted to get her perspective. But what you just described, Paula, was kind of like defined, clearly defined expectations. But one of the things that she mentioned was that proteges underestimate their level of responsibility and the leverage that they hold in the relationship. So,
Mm,
and that's part of knowing your value because the protege has to manage and control the joint venture.
mm,
And one of the areas that she struggled with that she gives me credits, I say thank you, was pushing back on the mentor as it
mhm,
relates to the scenario you just described. And
mm,
so you got to go in and understand and have some sense of at least a basic understanding or resources that you can go to, just like you mentioned she came to you. And that also kind of reminds me when, you were co-hosting the event to bring together all the resources, the mentors, the equity investors, the finance piece, the proteges, bringing them all together to form this consortium of a resource where you can go to get these kind of services and this kind of input
mhm,
because the protege, the small business holds the leverage in that relationship, and they have to know that, and they
mhm,
have to act on that, and they have to articulate that.
mhm. Because that could be very intimidating. So,
Yes.
so
And
he
that's
had,
why you have to kind of, know who your mentor is. And the other thing that she mentioned was that, she was performing on a contract with the Army. And this mentor was a retired person from the Army and formed a business. And so it was contract driven. She didn't know him. She didn't have a previous
mhm,
subcontract or any kind of relationship with them. They
mhm,
were they were strong. They were large. They,
mhm,
seemed like a fit, and it was a fit until it wasn't. But it's all part of kind of getting to know who
Mhm.
you are going into business with, and to
Mhm.
have some kind of alignment, define goals, define expectations. You're clear, you're communicating regularly, and you are, actively engaged in moving the relationship along. And so, yeah,
Mhm.
it's not you just turned it over to the mentor. You have to stay
Mhm.
engaged.
I love that. That's excellent points. Excellent points.
I had a question,
Um,
if that's okay.
yes.
Yes. This is Kenton. I'm gonna lower my hand. You mentioned value, like what the protege has to know what value they bring to the relationship. Could you provide some examples of, the proteges are small businesses, right? The mentors are usually medium to large businesses. So what kind of are some examples of the value that a small business protege would bring to the table?
And that's what they learn in our program. We help them shape the value, right? My alumni, you all have a strategy on how you're going to approach it. Am I correct? Miss Tibbs, I'm calling you out.
Yes, like we have to be able to say, well, one, what we bring to the table, where our expertise lies, what we bring to the table, but then also what is it that we need? And then you're defining that. I think that's where Miss Braxton is talking about what are the goals of the relationship. So when we talk about our needs, if I needed, a new accounting, understand the accounting system for government, I write that down, and then the agreement is signed based on that. So you can't go against what the agreement was. That's your leverage, right? You got in this relationship because of this agreement, because I said I had a need, you said you'd provide it. You can't then backtrack. Now you lose your opportunity to get these awards that you wouldn't have gotten in the first beginning. And I think another
Mhm.
key point you pointed out, Miss Paula, was, bringing, not relying on the mentor to bring you all the work, but have something to bring to them, demonstrating that you are a resource, not just taking from their business. So I think those are some of the leverage points that we could use.
That's
Go ahead,
that's
Miss Tibbs.
excellent, and that does help to demonstrate, your value.
Look at the student. The student, she's careful. Yeah, what they say? Snap, snap. Very good, very good, very good.
Yeah, that's a great added value that you just provided.
What are some outside that one of the common challenges I just mentioned? Are there any other common challenges that you've seen in these relations? And people have to understand this is a legal arrangement.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it's not just, okay, I don't like you no more, I need to walk away. You are really committing to legal arrangements, especially when you create a joint venture. So my protege, he had to figure out a way to navigate that with his mentor because this is a new contract that's 5 years. So they got to work together.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, do you find there are any common challenges that you see with small businesses in these relationships?
Well, yeah, I think that's the key one, in that, especially when the relationship is built around a contract, when it's contract driven and not focused on business development, not focused on scaling, not focused on learning within the process, building your infrastructure, and developing your organization as a result of what you're learning and aligning with and seeing with your mentor, is that um, once you get the award, maybe it shifts, and just like you described, the mentor is trying to realign
Mhm.
or to rewrite what was discussed. And
Mhm.
so, as long as the discussion is written and defined and clear, that helps to protect you as you move forward once the award is written. So it's very important to kind of spend time on the mentor protege agreement and the joint venture agreement, because those are the legally binding documents that says what is and what isn't. And so it would be important to kind of learn about that, explore that, seek out resources like GPI that can help you to understand what that is, because it is a binding relationship, and you gotta um, know at least some things about your mentor before you, especially if it's contract driven, and you see an opportunity and you just say, okay, this might work, and then you figure it all out after that. um that's, you put yourself at a disadvantage, and so you want to do your due diligence on the front end so that it has the potential to be smooth. And you got to have an extra strategy, because you can't joint venture forever because if you do, then you become affiliated. Maybe your mentor protege arrangement is limited. So you got to have an exit strategy even to the mentor protege arrangements.
Mm, very good point. And what I tell a lot of my 8A companies, especially those, because right now, when I came here to Atlanta in 2012, I have a lot of 8A firms that are now getting ready to graduate. And some of them are very successful. And so for me, my strategy for them, which makes sense, would be they can get it from both ends. And I don't know, this is just my opinion. You're the expert in that area. But my strategy for them is that they should get a larger mentor for them to mentor because they're still classified as a small business once they graduate, but they also should be able to mentor someone else new um, as well, but leveraging the larger business to support both of the businesses in that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that has value, because when you say, the protege that is established and looking for the larger mentor that's bringing something to the table and not just expecting something from the mentor, but they are adding value to the arrangement. They get a mentor, they're learning and growing from their mentor, which means that they also can impart some of that growth, that wisdom, that insight into a smaller mentor a smaller company or protege that they may be working with. So ideally, that would be the ideal, optimal, scenario
Arrangement,
is
yeah.
is how you work that. Yes.
That makes sense to me. That
Yeah.
makes sense. Everybody's winning.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's winning. This has
Yeah.
been very rich. It's gone it has gone pretty clear quickly. Miss Kareem,
Mhm.
you have a question.
Okay, great.
Hey, good afternoon, ladies. How you guys doing today? I'm Miss
Good.
Paula. Thank you for this. Always bringing us the gem. So appreciate you. When you say bringing something to the table, right? If you are like a new business or small business and you're just starting, like what is bringing something to the table look like? But I'm thinking maybe like, woman, or, certificate a certification or something like that. But like what else am I bringing to the table? Because I am the mentee and pretty much I'm like, I don't know anything. Like I'm coming to
Miss
you
Tibbs,
because I'm
I'm
trying
gonna
to
have Miss
learn from
Tibbs.
you.
I'm gonna have Miss Tibbs answer that question again. Miss Tibbs, what you bringing to the table? You're new, you don't have nothing. What you bringing to the table? Unmute yourself. You gotta unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
You bring in contracts. You're doing the research for them for contracts that they wouldn't have normally been eligible to receive, either based on your certifications, your 8A status, or whatever. you're bringing them opportunities to engage in other contracts that they may be out of based on the NAICS code or something like that. So you're also helping them with research. Now they don't have to go find those contracts themselves. You've already done the research, established why their business would work with you well in doing that work. So though you've not done the federal contract stuff, you've done some legwork that they don't have to spend their money to try to do on their behalf. And I think also not underestimating the skills that you're bringing to the work. So they probably already have staff and all that working on other projects. What can you and your team do that, can help supplement what they're doing?
It goes back to contracts. Our strategy in the program is you're looking at contracts that are expiring, that are are in the forecast that they're not eligible for. That's the value, even though we're saying it should not be contract driven, but you're getting the business development by the contracts, if that makes sense. Am I saying that correct, JoAnn?
Yeah, I think that's a key point, and that's what I alluded to when I said, data matters, and so you demonstrate based on the data, um, the opportunities that the potential mentor is ineligible for. You come to the table with some kind of a business case, and even in addition to identifying the opportunities, you said I'm not sure if she said, you don't have any experience, but you have to have some experience, I think, to help, or you're in the scenario that Paula just described, where you are potentially not seeking the largest potential mentor, but you are focused on, the small business that has a large mentor that is mentoring, another firm. You tap into
Middle
this
child.
middle person that can help you build the experience, the resources that you need to position you to where you can reach those larger mentors. You can mentor and joint venture small to small. You don't have to come out of the gate seeking a Fortune 500 company or a large mentor. You can um, scale, at a level that helps you to grow, scaling forward.
And the last cause we are going a little overtime, but I think this is rich and needed because nobody's breaking or focusing on this program. Would the class agree? Yes. Can I get a show of hands that you all are getting enriched with this information?
I agree.
Um,
Agree.
what's the
But let
difference?
me say this, Paula, too, because you also could bring your geographical presence or whatever your niche is, that the potential mentor might be interested in, or maybe you have a relationship with an agency. So there are
Yes.
a variety of ways in which to kind of explore where my value lie.
Thank you. I wanted because I didn't touch on that. This is again such broad, and again nobody's really broken down these programs. Now you have other agencies that have their own mentor protege programs, and sometimes that's confusing. And even in the mentor protege agreement, it asks what other mentor protege programs are you involved in. So
Hmm.
um, how does that though, like DOD, I know they have their own program. I think NASA have their own program. How
Hmm.
does that conflict with SBA's program if I'm already in a mentor protege program with DOD or someone out of NASA?
No, it doesn't come, well, as long as it's not in the same, providing the same assistance in the same area, there would be no. And I think because well, that depends. Let me say that. Because when you look at DoD. DoD is focused on the defense industrial space. They are, those mentors are large prime contractors, primarily looking for subcontractors. That's a subcontracting mentor protege vehicle, as well as the other ones. And the current ones are DoD, SBA, DoD, DHS, NASA, and DOE and DOT. Well, acronyms, right? Department of Transportation, Department of Energy, NASA, and DHS, Homeland
And
Security.
all of them, because I know DOD is incentivized by dollars, right?
Yes, yes. And so SBA is the most used mentor protege program because it goes federal agency wide. The other programs are specific to the nature of what they do. And so it's aligned to what their mission is. SBA is, you can't joint venture in the other ones, you joint venture in SBA. And it's government wide, it's business development. Those other ones are niched to their to the reason that the mission of the mission of the agency, and so
Uh,
that's a key distinction if you're
so,
trying to go nationwide. I mean agency wide, but you can have multiple mentor protege programs uh, and apply to SBA MPP, and they will. That's on the application as well as you mentioned, Paula. So yes,
but
as long
can,
as there's no conflict between what the mission of the arrangement is doing.
but if they create a joint venture under those programs, um, because I know with the SBA's Mentor Protege program, creating that joint venture eliminates that small business um, size standard
Mhm.
and the affiliation. So if you're in any of the other Mentor Protege programs and they create a joint venture, they could be violating SBA size standards, or it wouldn't pass.
Well, the other programs don't allow joint venturing.
Ah,
So that won't be.
okay. It's strictly subcontracting. It's a
Mhm. Mhm.
subcontracting relationship in those programs.
Within those niche
Okay.
services or the niche mission of the agency.
Okay. That makes sense. I wasn't clear
Mhm.
on the distinction. Whereas
Mhm.
with SBA, SBA is the only one, that program is the only one that allows joint venturing, therefore eliminating that type of affiliation that would be viewed outside of that program, correct?
Correct, correct,
Okay.
correct. And of course, the affiliation or the joint venture is required for any mentor that is other than small.
Okay. We got one last question and we're gonna close it out on this Friday. Yes, Miss Kareem, your last question.
I'm sorry. I didn't know that. So each of those departments, they all have their own mentor protege program, and you have to
Yes.
apply to each one if you want to, depending on your niche, of course.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, there's no one generic federal mentor protege program. It's agency specific. And when they established the all small, a lot of agencies terminated their mentor protege program, and Osgood offices directed them toward the SBA mentor protege program because it's federal agency wide. It's not limited to just one particular agency.
I love it. I love it. So, Miss JoAnn, how can they reach out to you um, and
Uh,
and your services that you're able to provide and support? Because I think, as I've said consistently, you're a kept secret, and that definitely I added value because no one. I mean, what better can you get, if you got someone who's on the ground of the program and understand all the nuances that's associated with it to help these small businesses be able to get the benefit from the program?
Yeah. So I'm on LinkedIn. That's the best way to get to me. You can message me on LinkedIn.
You want to
My
copy
email.
your LinkedIn and put it in the chat for them?
Okay, my email is jbraxton jbraxton at jbraxtongroup.com, and you can certainly feel free to go there. And my website is jbraxtongroup.com.
Okay. And while you're putting your stuff in the chat, can I get three takeaways? I always like to walk away with some takeaways. And let's do for some, at least one or two of the newbies. What was your takeaways? Mr. Pope, the Popes. We got brother and sister on board. What were you all's takeaway?
I think mine was
Oh,
just that even though you're small, you still bring in value. And I'll let my sister give you two more.
All right.
that was a good one. Why you gotta give me two? Um, I think mine was understanding the value. So, like you were saying, not only just your history as a business, I personally have so much history with government experience as a federal employee and the work I've done for federal government that I can use as experience.
Mhm.
So, that and understanding that each agency had its own mentorship program was another one.
Okay. And
Mhm.
Miss Camille Moore, she's new to the family. What was your takeaway? Miss Moore?
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. Ms. JoAnn and Ms. Paula, thank you so much for presenting. I will probably the same thing as Mr. Pope, learning the value of our business as we bring it to the table. I think so often with small businesses and new startups, we do seek to receive the information, but we have to be mindful of the information that the value that we bring and the information that we can bring and add to the relationship. So thank you.
Mhm. And don't get bullied by them.
Yes,
Understand
ma'am.
your value because they can strong arm. But that lesson that young man learned through that process was, okay, I got SBA backing me. And that's better than anything because that mentor's not going to buck SBA. So understand the game. Those of you who have not participated in the program, I have an information session tomorrow. Please go to my website and register. Don't forget to submit your comments, spread the words on this proposed rules. We have the power. With that being said, thank you so much, JoAnn. I mean, your knowledge.
I've enjoyed it. Thank you for inviting me, Paula.
It's there. It's a kept secret. I kept saying, y'all are secrets that nobody knows about. And I'm trying to get y'all out there because we need right now all of that insight on how we can leverage as small business, even
Yeah,
without these certifications. And to me, the Mental Protege program is definitely the pathway to go.
yeah, for
You
sure.
can't lose that way unless
Right,
you don't date them and choose the wrong partner because
right.
there can be ugly situations. So make sure you understand who you're dating. And
Mhm.
I had Miss Davis from Davis Solutions on last month, and she's in the Mental Protege program. And I loved what she said. First, she's getting a security clearance through the Mental Protege program. So
Mhm.
now that's eliminating a lot of small businesses and being in a competitive environment. And she said she started going in strictly talking about business. And her mentor said, stop. I want to know about you. What do you enjoy? And started from that perspective as opposed to the business, because in the relationship that you get in, your values have to align. And
That's an important lesson. That's an important lesson for the protege too. You know, the mentor acts that of the of that protege, which speaks to the character, I think, of the mentor. But it's also important for the protege to try to find out who are you, Mr. Mrs. Mentor, you know,
mhm.
other than strictly focusing on let's make this happen.
Yeah, the values have to add up. If your
Yeah.
values don't add up, the relationship's never going to work. And if you're getting, and I think the mentor protege program, the relationship lasts, they it can go 6 years on that
Hmm. Total of 12.
total of 12 years, you can have that mentor.
Mhm. Or a
And
different one. You can have two for 6 years, but the time is 12 years total.
and once they get into the program and they create a joint venture. So the joint venture again is the vehicle for everyone to get their business development. So how many opportunities can you have under each joint venture? How does that process really work?
You can have as many contracts as you win within a 2 year period. So the joint venture is can legally without red flags operate 2 years after their first award. So you can have the joint venture for as long as you have, but once you win an award, the 2 year period, that's when the clock starts. Once the joint venture wins an award, that 2 year requirement start ticking. So if you
So,
win two, three, four contracts in that 2 year period, then you can amass whatever you win. But after that 2 year period, you know, the regulations state that that particular joint venture, that's the end of that joint venture, and what they
but
do is they form another
but
joint
the
venture.
contract, if the contract, that kind of confusing to me because if the contract is 5 years,
No,
uh,
no, no. I'm talking about you perform on you. The joint venture exists, can perform on the contract for as long as
okay,
for the contract performance period.
okay,
But that's one contract. Let's say that joint venture won one contract that has 5 year options.
okay,
So in that 2 year period, they only won one contract. However, if they won another one and another one and another one, they could receive all of those awards and whatever those terms are, um, as long as they win those awards within 2 year period.
okay,
It doesn't speak to the performance of the contract. It speaks to the length of the joint venture,
okay. So,
if that
because I
makes
was
sense.
confused, I had a mental protege as part of my portfolio, and they had three joint ventures, and in each of those joint ventures, it was like $200 million in contract awards, and then they just flipped another joint venture. I wasn't quite sure what was the rationale behind them having three joint ventures.
Because you have to form a new one every 2 years. Because
Oh,
the time limit
wow.
on the joint venture is 2 years.
Wow.
Now, you got three or four with the same mentor, then, I don't know if you are, that raises an affiliation flag, but yeah,
If what did you just say? What raises the affiliation?
3 or 4 joint ventures with the same mentor.
Why would that be an affiliation if that's the purpose of the
Because
program?
it seems like, that it is, um, maybe there is because joint ventures are limited in that you can only have them for 2 years. The mentor protege program is limited in that it exists six per mentor, for a total of 12 potentially. And if you continue to just um, habitually form new joint ventures, then maybe there's some merging of the two entities as opposed to it being a specific project generated because it's not intended, joint ventures are not intended to be open-ended, to go on for duration. And so when you look into those affiliation related nuances, three or four joint ventures, the flag is peeping. You gotta start looking at that.
Good, good. And that's where a lot of small businesses, I think, get in
Don't
trouble.
realize.
They don't understand how SBA views affiliation, and that's why I incorporated it in the program because you're getting dinged on something that is normal on a regular B2B relationships, correct?
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and so then you also give that mentor, which is other than small, continuous access to something that they're not eligible for. So yeah, it raises flags.
So, what is some potential solutions that would not raise the flag?
Well, you have to have an exit strategy. You have to have an exit strategy, and you have to factor in, okay, how are we going to shift this once we get to the point where it butts up against the regulations? How do we shift? And you have to think through that. Or not you, one has to think through that.
Ms.
So
JoAnn,
could my exit strategy be that that mentor is going to acquire me after we're done?
That could be.
Okay.
That
Okay.
could be. But joint venturing, and then you can continue to joint, you could, if the mentor acquires you, then you could therein go find another protege,
Mm,
right? You continue with that working alignment, and then you find another protege.
I hope y'all hearing this. Are y'all hearing
so
this?
I do have a question.
Yes.
Yes,
And in
Robert.
this sense, like what Ms. JoAnn was just saying, like you have a $2 billion company, and me being a small service disabled veteran company, you have the company A, which is this conglomerate, using my service disabled veteran owned status to acquire contracts. Is
Mhm.
that where the potential, um,
Affiliation?
yes, that's what you're from that standpoint? Okay.
Yes, because that large mentor is not eligible to receive those small disadvantaged veteran-owned set-asides.
Mhm. So,
So,
but if you have two small ones and one company has these qualifications and me have these, and we just decide we want to merge our capabilities to go after items and we continually win things, would that be an affiliation or are we just joining our smaller capabilities to go after bigger items?
it sounds like you aligning small capabilities to go after business larger opportunities, but the devil is always in the detail. But
Mhm.
small is small. If you are a small business and a small business, and y'all come together and collaborate, form a joint venture, or and pursue opportunities, you can do that without having to. Be concerned with the regulations that governs the
Okay.
mentor protege program or the joint venture 13 125.8. Small to small, you're outside of that. You can joint venture and go along and do what you do. But when
That's right.
you when you
You're
come
looking more
together
so
with
at the bigger conglomerate, just taking advantage of the smaller or using that smaller company's
for
capabilities.
access to contracts,
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
that's not allowed.
Got it.
The
All
whole
right.
design is to develop the small business.
Correct.
For both sides, the 8A and the mental protege. And to me,
All
um,
small business,
where,
not just 8A. Paula, but see, that's where all small comes in for those that are not 8A, and maybe most of your clientele is 8A, but even for those small businesses that are not 8A, this vehicle helps you to do the same thing.
and most of my client base are not 8A. But
Okay.
to me, I'm telling them the strategy, because the 8A is not dead yet,
No, it isn't.
um, is to go into that program first and then apply into the 8A program. Would that work? Because now you're leveraging both programs and taking full advantage of both programs.
When you say go into that program first, what program?
Go into the mentor protege program first and get approved, and then apply into the 8A program.
Well, the mentor protege program is limited. So if you apply too soon with no mentor, and you have to come to the table with a mentor. So, but if you apply too soon, and then you look at the timeline for processing within SBA, which, shortage of staff and all of that, and all of this current administration, the timeline probably goes from here to here. I don't know if, I don't know, it would have to be kind of, thought through, but I don't know if you are wasting that MPA approval while you apply to the 8A program. You could just be, they haven't approved any firms, since 2025 sometime. So, I think you would weigh that a little bit, Paula, to kind of look at the timelines associated with doing with that approach.
Because I think my mindset and rationale for that approach was you're walking in the door with juice. Because what I saw, and I'm not sure what you saw in your portfolio, was that the average 8A company did not win their first contract until the fourth year. So if I'm walking into the door with someone who's been approved by SBA's Mentor Protege program, and I'm applying into the 8A, then I'm already ahead of the game because I'm able to leverage their resources to get the business development from that program as well.
Yeah, I hear you. Maybe do it at the same time, but so you're saying that the mentor protege, the mentor adds value to your application?
Potentially.
It potentially could, if you don't meet the criteria otherwise. But, if you meet the criteria, then the mentor is no real advantage at the time of application. The mentor is that advantage is highlighted once you are able,
Once it's
so
approved.
yeah, yeah. But if you
That
meet
was
the
just
eligibility criteria and you can get approved, then yeah.
huh?
I say if you meet the eligibility to be approved and can probably do that way, I would um um you know, utilize that MP arrangement once I get in the door. I'd be ready to go. Maybe I've already identified. I have it
Okay.
propped up and ready to go. Then yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. We there.
Okay.
All right, y'all. We're going into 1:30. I promise it's the last question, Mr. Pope. But this
Yeah,
is
just
so
real
good.
quick.
Because you answering my questions as well.
No,
Yes.
this has been really good. Thank y'all for doing this. Just real quick question. I overheard, maybe I heard this wrong, but is there a list of pre-approved mentors? Is that such a thing, or did I just overhear that wrong?
Well, there's a list that those relationships on SBA's website. they're not pre-approved. You're the one that have to
Go
go out
out and
and
find.
date and find who you're going to marry. They're not trying to find your boo for you.
You always say your sayings. I love them.
That pre-approved mentor is only on DoD because the mentor applies to DoD mentor protege program, but
Okay.
you're specifically in the lane of doing work with DoD only with that DoD vehicle. So but not SBA MPP.
Okay.
Um,
The DoD has the pre-approved mentor sometimes, but not the not any other agency.
correct.
Got it.
Good. I'm learning a whole lot. That's why it's overtime. Um, Um, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you again. This has been a wealth, and I'm gonna definitely have this replayed. You all agree? This has been a wealth of insight, Miss Thomas. I know I see you over there working.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
What was your takeaway? I'm gonna get two
I'm
takeaways
sorry I'm
from the
working,
old
but
school, huh?
this has been very helpful. I'm sorry I'm working today. Got a big project that's due, but it has been very, very helpful.
What was helpful for you?
I'm sorry.
What was helpful for you?
Just well, certainly getting more information because I'm interested in the mentor protege program and just getting more information about that process. Even though we know you covered it sufficiently in our training, but it's always good to reinforce that learning as you prepare to get out there and start searching for that mentor. I'm still in the process of searching for contract opportunities. So I just welcome the opportunity to just learn and gain more information because you can never learn enough in this game. And the more you learn and the more you enforce it, I think it just improves your odds of getting that contract and finding the appropriate mentor. So thank you for the information to both of you. Thank you.
Okay.
Mhm.
And Miss Bannister, that's my other undercover. Well, she graduated. She got out of the government. Miss Bannister, again, y'all don't know what we have in the community. She's a government retiree. She was SES at CDC. Was it SES
Well,
or just GS 15?
it was HHS.
As a core. So what did you take from this as you're trying to grow your business on this side?
Um, a lot of good information, understanding the mentor protege program a little more. And it just kind of piggybacked on some of the things you taught us in the training. We got to go out there and date and find a good mentor. Not just settling for any mentor, and that we really got to focus on what are we bringing to the table.
Mhm. And
What
you
I
have
leverage is like I have my certifications, but what else? What skill set am I bringing to the table? How can I help the mentor? What am I helping them with while leveraging their resources to help build my organization?
Mhm.
So yes, good information.
I'm so proud of the children. They've grown up from once they started in March.
Yeah,
Y'all have
yeah, that's
grown up, so I'm very proud of y'all. And keep
yeah,
your
that's
eyes on
that's
the prize. Y'all have JoAnn's contact information. We're going to be rolling. I told you, God has shown me that we need a school of our own. So that's what we're building. And she's part of the school and the academy that we're going to roll out a boot camp probably in the fall around the more intricate details of this program and the application. What's going to help you pass the smell test? And what better person to have who was involved with it from the beginning. So again, thank you for your service and thank you for your knowledge base that's getting ready to change the game without all these certifications that they keep trying to
Right.
say, right?
Well,
Yeah.
I will say thank you to you for providing a platform or your vision, and I see it, and I just love it. So
All right,
All right.
we get ready to take over. We were built for
Yeah.
this. So
Yes.
thank you guys.
All right. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Have a
Bye.
good one.
Bye
Bye bye.
bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.